Here is the thing about flirting that nobody says clearly enough to be useful. Most men are not bad at flirting because they lack confidence. They are bad at flirting because they are doing a completely different thing than what flirting actually is. They are performing. They are executing a behavior they have been told works, monitoring its reception in real time, adjusting based on the feedback, and calling the entire managed, calibrated production flirting. And women can feel every single layer of that management, not consciously, neurologically, at the level where the real evaluation of a man is happening long before her conscious mind has formed a single opinion. Real flirting is not a performance. Real flirting is something that leaks out of a man who is genuinely, quietly, completely enjoying the presence of the woman in front of him. It is the behavioral expression of a specific internal state. And the 7 habits I'm about to describe are not techniques to execute. They are the natural outputs of that specific internal state, described precisely enough that once you understand the mechanism behind each one, you can recognize whether you are actually in the state that produces them or merely simulating the behavior. The difference between those two things is the difference between a woman who walks away from a conversation thinking about you for 3 days and a woman who walks away from a conversation thinking, he was trying. Stay with me. Because the 7th habit is the one that every woman I have ever spoken honestly with about this subject has described as the single most attractive thing a man can do. Not the most romantic, not the most impressive, the most attractive, and it is a habit so counterintuitive that most men, upon hearing it, will argue that it cannot possibly be right. I will show you the science of exactly why it is. Before I give you the first habit, I need to say something directly to every man watching this who has ever been told he is too much, too intense, too forward, or conversely, too reserved, too passive, too nice to be exciting. Both of those verdicts were rendered by women evaluating the performance you were offering rather than the man behind it. The too much was too much management showing. The too reserved was the absence of genuine permission to want what you actually want. Neither of those things is who you are. They are what anxiety looks like from the outside when it wears the costume of attraction. And the 7 habits I am about to show you are what genuine, settled, completely undefended desire looks like when it stops managing itself. Habit 1, the interested pause. Research in conversation dynamics documents something that most people have never had named for them. The speed at which a person responds to something you say carries more emotional information than the content of what they say in response. A rapid, seamless response communicates that the brain processed your words and generated a reply efficiently. It is the conversational signature of someone who is either very comfortable or not fully listening. But a brief, genuine pause, 2 to 3 seconds, in which the person actually sits with what you said before responding, communicates something different. It communicates that what you said actually landed, that it went somewhere and produced something before a reply was formed. Dr. Stephen Porges, whose polyvagal theory has reshaped how researchers understand social engagement, identifies what he calls the social engagement system, the set of neurological and behavioral signals that communicate genuine interest and safety to another nervous system. A genuine, unhurried pause before responding is one of the clearest activators of that system. It tells her nervous system, he is actually receiving what I am saying, not waiting for his turn to speak, receiving. For flirting specifically, this pause does something additional. It creates a micro moment of suspense between what she said and your response. And suspense, even in conversation, activates the dopamine system. Her brain wants to resolve the uncertainty of what you are going to say. And the moment her brain is anticipating you, the fundamental neurological condition for attraction has been established. The interested pause is not a technique. It is the natural output of a man who finds her genuinely interesting. If you are faking it, she will feel the quality of performance in it immediately. But if you actually slow down enough to let what she says actually reach you before you respond, the pause arrives on its own. And she will feel the difference between being heard and being processed every single time. Habit 2, the specific compliment. Every man knows to give compliments. Almost no man knows the difference between a compliment that lands and a compliment that disappears the moment it arrives. The compliment that disappears is the general one. You are beautiful. You are so smart. You are incredible. These compliments are not wrong. They are imprecise. They could apply to almost anyone. And because they could apply to almost anyone, they do not communicate the one thing a compliment is actually supposed to communicate at the neurological level, that she was seen specifically. Research on what psychologists call the mattering signal, the felt experience of being seen and registered as a specific individual rather than a category, shows that this signal is processed by the brain's reward system differently from general positive feedback. General praise activates mild reward. Specific recognition, recognition that could only have been given to this specific person because it required actually paying attention to who they are, activates the reward system at a significantly higher intensity. The specific compliment requires observation, not of her appearance in the conventional sense, of her. The way she tilts her head when she is listening to something she finds genuinely interesting. The specific quality of intelligence in how she pivots from one topic to the next. The things she does with her hands when she is explaining something she cares about. When you say, I notice that you get more specific when something actually matters to you. Most people do the opposite and go more general when they care about something. You are not giving a compliment. You are giving evidence that you have been paying close enough attention to her to know something about her that she might not have known about herself. And a woman who receives that does not experience warmth the way she experiences a conventional compliment. She experiences recognition, the specific, slightly disorienting, neurologically powerful experience of being seen by someone who is actually looking. Habit 3, the comfortable disagreement. Pay close attention here, because this is the habit that most men are directly told to avoid by the worst possible advice, and the research shows the opposite is true. A man who agrees with everything a woman says is not demonstrating warmth or compatibility. He is demonstrating that his sense of self is flexible enough to accommodate her preferences entirely. And a self that is that flexible does not produce attraction. It produces the mild subconscious distrust of something that appears to have no stable interior. Evolutionary psychology has a clear framework for why this response exists. A partner whose opinions and positions shift entirely based on who they are trying to please is a partner whose behavior in conditions of actual adversity is unpredictable. Her nervous system registers this instability at a level below conscious processing and files it under the category of not safe enough to be real with. The comfortable disagreement is not picking fights. It is the specific, warm, completely undefensive expression of a genuine perspective that happens to differ from hers. The quality of it is everything. Not, actually, I disagree and here's why you are wrong. But, I see it differently. For me, it is more like this, delivered with the specific ease of a man whose opinion does not require her agreement to remain stable. When she encounters this, two things happen simultaneously. Her opinion of the topic is unchanged. Her interest in the man holding the different view increases. Because what the comfortable disagreement communicates is the most attractive single quality a man can demonstrate in conversation. He is real. What he says is what he actually thinks. The version of himself she is talking to is the actual version, not a version calibrated to produce her approval. And a woman who discovers that the man in front of her is genuinely, stably real, that he will tell her what he thinks rather than what she wants to hear, does not feel challenged by it. She feels relieved by it. And relief, in the specific context of attraction, feels like trust beginning to form. If this is landing for you right now, take 2 seconds and hit the like button, because this is the information about flirting that most channels will never say, because it contradicts the advice that gets the most initial agreement. And every person who engages with this video helps another man find what actually works instead of what merely sounds right. Now let me give you habit 4. Habit 4, the directed laugh. Laughter in the context of flirting is one of the most discussed and least understood variables in attraction research. Most men believe their goal is to make her laugh, to be funny enough often enough that laughter becomes associated with their presence. And while shared laughter is genuinely one of the strongest predictors of relational satisfaction, a finding replicated across dozens of studies in relationship psychology, the specific direction of the laughter matters in ways that most men have never been told. Research by Dr. Eric Bressler and Dr. Sigal Balshin at McMaster University found a consistent gender asymmetry in how laughter functions in attraction. Women were significantly more attracted to men who made them laugh. Men were significantly more attracted to women who laughed at their humor. But beneath this finding is a more nuanced and more useful one. The laughter women found most attractive was not the loudest laughter. It was not the most performative laughter. It was genuine laughter, specifically directed. The laughter of a man who finds her amusing, not trying to be found amusing, actually amused by her. The directed laugh is the natural, unmanaged response of a man who is genuinely entertained by the person he is with, not by his own material, by hers, by the specific, surprising, particular quality of her humor as it reveals itself in real time. When a man laughs at something she says in a way that is clearly unperformed, that has the specific quality of a response she produced rather than a response he manufactured, she receives information about herself that most interactions do not provide. That she is genuinely funny, genuinely interesting, genuinely capable of surprising someone who has seen a great deal of the world. And that information produces something in her nervous system that manufactured interest never can. Habit 5. The named observation. This is the second of the habits I want you to hold carefully because its mechanism is the one most men dismiss as too subtle to matter. And then they watch another man use it and cannot explain why the room changed. At some point in a conversation that has reached genuine warmth, you name something you noticed about her, not a compliment, an observation. Something that demonstrates that you have been paying a specific quality of attention that most people in her life are not paying. The observation is about her pattern, not her appearance, not her hair or her clothes or anything she assembled for the occasion. Something about how she operates, how she thinks, how she moves through the world. Neuroscientist Dr. Matthew Lieberman at UCLA has documented what he calls the social brain network, the specific neural circuitry that activates when people think about themselves and when they are thought about by others. His research shows that being the object of genuine, specific, non-evaluative attention from another person activates the same reward circuitry as receiving a material gift. Not similar to it, neurologically indistinguishable from it. When you say, you listen differently than most people, you are quiet in a way that feels like you are building something rather than just waiting, you are not giving her information about herself. You are giving her the experience of having been seen at a level that most interactions never reach. You are giving her brain a reward signal she did not predict. And unpredicted rewards produce a dopamine response significantly larger than predicted ones, a finding replicated consistently in reward processing research. She will think about what you said later, not because it was flattering, because it was accurate, because someone finally looked closely enough to see something real. Habit 6, the deliberate withdrawal. Here is the one that contradicts everything your instincts tell you when you are genuinely attracted to someone. Most men, when they feel attraction increasing during an interaction, respond by increasing their investment. More engagement, more attention, more effort, more explicit signaling of interest. The logic is obvious. You feel more, you show more, and it is exactly the wrong response neurologically. Research on dopamine and reward prediction error. The mechanism behind why unpredictable rewards are more motivating than consistent ones shows that unbroken positive attention produces what psychologists call hedonic adaptation. The consistent signal loses its power to activate the reward system at the same intensity over time, precisely because its consistency makes it predictable. The deliberate withdrawal is not game playing. It is not manufactured coldness designed to create anxiety. It is the specific, warm, completely natural behavior of a man who has genuine interest, genuine presence in his own life, and genuine things that pull his attention beyond the interaction he is in. In practice, it looks like this. In the middle of genuine engagement, you become briefly absorbed in something else. Not dramatically, not pointedly. With the natural ease of a man whose attention has a center of gravity in himself rather than in her response to him. You look away at something that actually interests you. You pause to think about something that is genuinely occupying you. You are fully present one moment and slightly less available the next. Not because you calculated the shift, but because your presence in the interaction was real enough to have natural variation. The withdrawal produces a gap in the consistency of your attention. And her dopamine system does exactly what reward prediction error research predicts it will do. It activates around the gap. It moves toward filling the uncertainty. Her attention returns to you with a slight increase in intensity that she did not authorize and cannot fully account for. Habit 7, the admission. I told you this one was counterintuitive. I told you most men will argue with it. Here it is. The single most attractive flirting habit a man can demonstrate, documented across multiple research contexts in social psychology and confirmed in virtually every honest conversation I have had with women about what genuinely draws them, is the quiet, undefended, completely comfortable admission that he finds her attractive. Not a declaration, not a move, not a confession designed to force a response. A simple, direct, completely settled acknowledgement that what he is feeling is what he is feeling and he is comfortable enough in himself to let it be visible. The research foundation for this is substantial. Studies on what social psychologists call reciprocity of disclosure show that vulnerability offered from a position of genuine security, not neediness, not desperation, but the specific warmth of a man who is comfortable with his own desire, produces a significantly stronger attraction response than maintained ambiguity. Dr. Arthur Aaron's famous closeness-inducing studies at SUNY Stony Brook documented that mutual vulnerability escalates emotional intimacy at rates that sustained interaction without vulnerability cannot approach. But the specific quality that makes this admission an act of flirting rather than an act of pressure is entirely in the delivery. Not, I like you, said with the slight anxiety of a man who needs a specific response to feel okay about having said it. But, I find you genuinely interesting and not only as a conversation partner, said with the specific warmth and the complete lack of urgency of a man whose sense of himself does not depend on what she does with the information. He is not asking anything. He is not building toward anything. He is simply quietly, with all the ease of a man who is entirely comfortable with his own inner experience, telling her the truth. And for a woman who has spent years being desired by men who hid their desire behind layers of strategy and indirection, who tried to maneuver her toward a conclusion rather than simply standing in the honesty of what they felt. This admission is not just attractive. It is shocking in the best possible way. It is a man saying, this is what I feel, and I am not afraid of it, and I am not asking you to manage it, and I am not going to pretend it is not here because I am too anxious to let you see it. I once had a woman describe this to me, and she paused in the middle of describing it, and then she said, it was the first time in years that I felt like a man was actually talking to me, not performing at me, talking to me. That is the seventh habit. Not a line, not a technique. The complete, unmanaged, unhurried honesty of a man whose desire has stopped pretending to be something more comfortable than what it is. 7 habits, each one rooted in real research, real neuroscience, real psychology of what actually happens inside a woman when a man who genuinely, calmly, completely enjoys her presence stops managing that enjoyment and lets it be visible. Here is what all 7 of them share. They are not things you do. They are things that happen when you are in a specific internal state. The state of a man who is so genuinely settled in himself, so complete in his own identity, so comfortable in his own desire, that his behavior around a woman he finds compelling stops being a production and becomes an expression. The interested pause is not patience, it is genuine reception. The specific compliment is not flattery, it is accurate observation. The comfortable disagreement is not contrarianism. It is a self stable enough to still be itself under social pressure. The directed laugh is not performance. It is genuine amusement. The named observation is not a script. It is attention that was actually paid. The deliberate withdrawal is not strategy. It is the natural variation of a man with a real inner life. The admission is not vulnerability deployed for effect. It is honesty that is no longer afraid of itself. She will feel the difference between all of this and the version of it that is being executed. She always does. And the man whose habits reveal that he is genuinely, completely, unmistakably real is the man she will choose when she stops pretending she has not already chosen. Subscribe to this channel right now. Because this is where flirting gets the honest scientific treatment it has always deserved and almost never received. Like this video and share it with someone who has been told his approach needs to change without ever being told what change actually looks like from the inside. And whatever you do not miss the next video because it goes even deeper into the psychology of what makes a man genuinely irresistible, not to every woman, but to exactly the right one. See you there.